Okay, welcome back. I'm going to do a quick little playthrough of Little Nightmares. We're going to take a look at kind of my view on the symbolism in Little Nightmares on what I think is actually going on. So, I know other people have done this. I haven't seen any of their playthroughs. I've heard some of the theories. So, if what I'm saying before has been said before, I do apologize. But this is just my look and my analysis of what's actually going on in this game. So first off, the main influence for this game that the creator said was the Pixar movie Inside Out, the majority of which movie takes place inside the mind of the little girl. And I strongly suspect that this game has a similar focal point. It's not actually happening, but taking place within the mind of the little girl of 6. Excuse me. And that everything we're seeing is, to a certain sense, symbolic of what's going on, what she's doing, what's happening. So, we wake up, scary little place. So, let's go ahead and run through this starting point. Light the cigarette, and there are some gnomes up ahead, and if only I can get close enough to hug them. But, sadly, I can't. I think they run too quickly. I think you have to sneak up on them. So there's a light to light. And I'll get to the symbolism, but first I believe we need to get to a certain point up ahead. So let's carry on to that point. Like I said, I think just about everything is symbolic in this game. 6 is a 9-year-old girl whose name is 6. Now, the interesting thing about those numbers is that they are literally the opposite of each other. 6 is the opposite of 9. Or 6 is 9 upside down, 9 is 6 upside down. And I'm sorry, this is just such a beautiful game. Just visually, it is really an incredible feat, an incredible game to have done. And I'm always afraid of falling in games like this, so let's go. Let's see, that's a little. I'm gonna carry that, and I think I can throw that somewhere. So, gonna go see if I can throw this. Seems like I'm supposed to throw this. Aren't I supposed to like drop this somewhere? What button throws? Okay, yeah. Broke that. Anyway, so everything we're seeing is kind of symbolic within the mind of a child, and to a certain regard, it does remind me of the movie Labyrinth. And can't find the hole there. In that, everything we're seeing is, it's very creative, very imaginative. So let's go through this room. Here we have chairs hanging from the ceiling, and so on. So so my personal view of this game is that it takes place within, like I said, in the mind of a child, but this is the point where we kind of have to start. We have a dead body hanging from the ceiling, chair, presumably killed himself, within the mind of this game. And the odd thing that a lot of people point out is the body doesn't seem to actually connect to anything within the game. And I want to humbly disagree with that. I think the dead body hanging from the ceiling is the game. That is where it starts. Everything about the game starts right there. And my personal view is that all 5 levels of this game are symbolic and representative of the 5 stages of grief. First stage is denial, second is anger, third is bargaining, fourth is depression, and fifth and final is acceptance. And I think the reason why I say it starts with this body is this, whether can be described as a traumatic event. Somebody dying is a traumatic event. Now, this could just be symbolic of any traumatic event happening. It doesn't have to be a death. But in the real life of whoever 6 is, it is symbolic. It is a traumatic moment which sends her into the going through the stages of grief. And since she is a child, it's harder for her to cope and deal with these things. And so just about everything we see represents an attempt to deal with it. Each level broadly represents the 5 stages of grief. Denial in the first level is, I think, very appropriate. You don't have a boss battle at the end of this level, and pretty much everything you do, you don't confront anything, you don't resolve anything, you're pretty much, the idea of denial is pretty much straightforward and works quite well on this level. It's not until the second one, Anger, where she faces off against the character who's been called the Janitor. I've always felt that's not an appropriate name for that character, Janitor. He's more of a caretaker, and he appears to be taking care of the children, trying to help the children that are going there. Now, for whatever reason, the reason is generally viewed as negative because it's really odd. What we see going on later on. Can't seem to get through the... Oh, yeah. Wait. Gotta crouch jump. Seems like there's a way to... there. Jump higher. Okay. Oh, yeah, I have to move the chair. It's been a while since I played this game, so doing that. But yeah, the second level is Anger, lashing out at someone who is a caretaker. Even if... Which, in the way the game is set up, he's not a very good caretaker. He's caretaking the kids so bad things can happen. Now, in the third level, Bargaining, you face the chefs, who appear to be cooking and eating the children. In fact, if Six is caught by the chefs, she's put into the food. Pretty much. I think pretty much every single capture by the chef she's put in the food, whereas if she's caught by the caretaker, he just takes her away somewhere. And I think in many ways that is kind of... I just get that vague feeling of bargaining with them. It's, you're trying to convince them not to do things to you. The fourth is depression, and the fifth is acceptance. I'm not going to go into too many details about those. Just playing through the levels, it seems like... It just seems like she's reached the point in depression where... Oh yes, we have the falling slugs in this area, I think. Or maybe. Are there falling slugs up there? I don't know. Just, it seems like you get to that point, you've been going forever, you can't go any further. And it's easy to get depressed at that point. I think in any game, when you get 80% into it and it's going hard, yeah, it's a very good symbol for depression. And of course, by defeating the lady in the fifth level, she finally accepts who she is and what's going on. Now, to speak to some of the... Oops, wait, wrong button, I'm laying that. To speak to some of the individual representation, I did state earlier, I believe I was distracted, that 6 and 9 are opposites. 6 is an upside-down 9, 9 is upside-down 6. If they're put side by side, they resemble the yin and the yang of that. And I think that's actually was a deliberate thing. You've got the character's name and the character's age, and represents the two sides, the light and the dark. And they're not necessarily negative, they're just two sides that have to work together. Where am I going in this area? So, you've got the two sides working together. Two sides trying to work together. Can I do anything from here? No, not really. Of her personality working together, trying to figure out what's going on, trying to accept it. And I think that's important when we get into the areas where 6 has to eat. For those of you who haven't played the game, we're not going to see any of this, but she is overcome on each level with this extreme hunger. Can I move this? No. I can climb up on it, but can't move it. Now, what's up here? Now, this extreme hunger is debilitating. It's a loss of control. And when you're going through grief, yeah, you have little to no control. One of these days I'm going to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing. Can't climb up. So, when you have loss of control, when you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, No, I don't think I have to go back that way. You know, you attempt to regain control, and in this case, she regains control by eating. If she gets food, suddenly she can control herself, and you can control her through the controllers. And that's important. The eating is regaining control. Now, there's a scene with... Now, okay, backtrack a second. An interesting aspect is that very, very briefly, this has been pointed out by many people who have pretty much studied every moment in this game, have pointed out that a shadow version of 6 appears every time she eats. When she eats, the lights flicker and a shadow version of her appears on the screen. It's very hard to see, and it's almost hidden. I don't think this is her dark side, like a lot of people seem to have represented, because it's that I think it's more Jungian. If you're familiar with Carl Jung, his version of shadow. And the shadow is a part of you, part of who you are, part of what you do is the shadow, But it's kind of like your subconscious. You're not fully aware of what it wants, what it's doing. And that makes it, you know, a bit mysterious, but it's ultimately working together. And I think in this case, her shadow, her subconscious, what her shadow and subconscious wants her to do is to get better. Nope, couldn't catch on anything there. Let's see. Nothing going up. Can I knock that down somehow? Can I light these on fire? No. Can't move that. Yep. This is why you should play games more regularly. You don't get stuck. But the shadow's ultimately trying to help her regain this control, overcome this grief of whatever's going on in her life. And shadow only appears when she has regained that control, when she's eating. Now there's a controversial part later on in the game. Now each time she eats, it's very interesting. We'll start with that. First one, she loses control of the hunger and is led into a trap by the janitor, and she has to escape from that trap to move on. Second time, a fellow child down wherever she's at throws some bread at her. Third time, it's a rat in a trap that she is forced to eat. So it's trying, from my point of view, it's you get this control however possible, and even if it seems just really gross and disgusting. Now the controversial one was, of course, the gnome. At one point a gnome appears offering her a sausage. She ignores the sausage and eats the gnome. And that's been a lot of trouble, and a lot of people kind of use that to show that she's the little nightmare, she's the monster of this entire game. And I don't think that's quite correct, because when you consume something, you make it a part of you. From a childish point of view, from a symbolic point of view, that's what happens. And when you have that part of you, I'm going to go back this way, I'm not sure what I'm doing. When you have that, when you make something a part of you, it becomes who you are. What you do, who you are. So what are the gnomes? And why does she need to make the gnomes part of herself? Nope, that didn't work. And I think the gnomes represent, to a certain degree, innocence. Her innocence. They are terrified. Gnomes are always terrified of her whenever they see her coming, but when she hugs them, they suddenly love her. They want to be around her, and they will follow her. After she hugs her to a certain extent, she will be followed by them. And I think they represent her innocence, the childlike aspects of who she is and of what's going on. And to process this grief, to move on, she has to bring the innocence back into herself and essentially mature, to grow up. So it's symbolic in two ways, of her taking the innocence back into her and then moving on from that, growing up. Still being a child, but becoming able to cope with the childish things. And another aspect I want to discuss, which, if I weren't, you would not believe how hard it is to remember what you're supposed to be doing and talk at the same time. Well, most people who know me know that I love to talk, so they won't believe that. So, yeah, so the consumption of the gnome is her taking back her innocence and not destroying it, making it a part of her and moving on to maturity. That's my take on that. Now, another interesting aspect is pretty much everyone she encounters in this game, just about everyone I should say, appears to be wearing some sort of mask. With certain people it's hard to see. At one point you can actually see the chef scratching underneath the mask. That's the only way you can tell it's a mask. But everyone appears to be wearing a mask, and I think in real life that's how a child views the grieving process. It goes on, everyone has to behave or act in a certain way. And when they put on a mask, they try to be something they are not. You know, they have to show sadness at the right time, they have to show strength and courage at the right time, they have to do everything a certain way. Maybe I'm supposed to go this way. Okay. Anyway, sorry, not. So, to a child, it's like wearing a mask. And that every adult appears to be, I should say, wearing a mask. They appear to be not what they are. They have to act stoic when it's the time to act stoic. They have to act happy or sad at other times. They have to appear to be a certain way during these times of stress. And a child doesn't accept that sort of thing. A child feels that they feel safe enough to give into their emotions, act their emotions. And so it's confusing when they see adults who they think should be acting one way but do behave in another way. And that's, I think, what the masks are on all the adults. They're symbolic. Now, the fact that they seem to be consuming children in this place, in the Ma, is also, I think, quite symbolic of a child's point of view. It seems like, you know, all these emotions, all these things happening around her are going to consume her, are going to destroy her. And then she makes it finally to the lady in the acceptance. And there's a picture of her on the wall and the lady. And it's been presumed the lady is her mother, but I think in fact the lady represents her, an aspect of her that she feels like she's being forced to become. And really, like a dream, all the characters in this are her to a certain extent. But she's forced to become the lady and this, you know, masked creature that she isn't. And then her triumphant escape, you know, getting rid of all the people who are eating, consuming her, them being destroyed by her walking out, and then escaping to the surface world. And the sound, you know, that a boat is coming signals that she is moving away from the Ma. She is moving on with her life, doing other things with it. And so that's my quick interpretation of Little Nightmares. I think it's a very beautiful game. I wish I could remember what I'm supposed to be doing here, so you didn't have to watch me wander around this room so much while I'm talking. But yeah, feel free to like and subscribe if you like this, and I would welcome any of your comments on this, what you think about my analysis, if you think it's correct, if you disagree or agree, if I've missed something in this analysis that you feel is should be there, if I've oversimplified it, if I've undersimplified it. Anyway, yeah, go ahead and like and subscribe, and yep, and I'll probably do more with 6 later on. Because look at her, she's just so adorable. So adorable. Anyway, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.